Welcome to Eric Unfiltered. I am your host, Eric, a Gen Xer from Connecticut, where I get into local and national news, politics, and culture. No topic is off limits, no feelings are spared. No mainstream sugar-coated BS here. Thank you for tuning in. Now let's get on with the show. All right. Welcome back. As you can see me today. I hope everybody out there is doing well today. And you can see I have a guest in the studio. Before I get into my guest, I just want to do a quick shout out to CSB Media Arts Center of Farmington for giving us access to their studio today. So, as you can see, I have a guest, and I am joined today by Mr. Jonathan De Barros. Thank you for joining me today, Jonathan. You are running for the 5th Congressional District here in Connecticut.
That's correct.
Thank you for joining me, man. Really appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you for the invite. I truly appreciate being here myself, and I'm grateful for the school for giving you access to this moment that we're here right now. So
excellent. If you could do me a favor, just pull the mic up a little closer.
So like I said, I'm thankful to be here. I'm in Farmington, which Farmington is actually part of the 5th U.S. Congressional District. So.
That was actually going to be my next question. Mm-hmm. I know Waterbury is like the big one, the big city. What major areas are in the 5th?
Well, the 4 major cities are Waterbury, Danbury, Meriden, and New Britain. And then I have part of Torrington as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but I got 41 cities and towns, including Farmington.
Nice. Mm-hmm. What made you want to jump into the race running for Congress?
Well, being a Republican and respecting and understanding the science of politics, I just realized that the candidates that the state GOP were running were never going to get the job done. We haven't won a federal election in over 20 years. In Congress, and the U.S. Senate has been close to 40 years.
Wow.
And I just got tired of watching them running weak candidates, controlled opposition. I know Johanna Hayes, the Democrat incumbent congresswoman. We come from the same city.
Mm-hmm.
She neglected large portions of the city. She hasn't done anything. And then I started traveling around the district and realized she hasn't done anything for anybody. I currently reside in the town of Terryville, Connecticut, which is part of Plymouth.
Okay.
I had a tour with our local law enforcement facility because they've been trying to get federal funding earmarked for our town to get a new police station because it's outdated. They got filing cabinets in the bathrooms.
Wow.
There's no room for female officers to be able to, change their uniforms privately.
Wow.
It's just outdated. The Sally port, like when they pull in perps into the garage, is so tight that it's a recipe for disaster. And there's so much wasteful spending being done on the federal level. In Connecticut alone, I feel as though that money should have been directed to our local police officers. So.
Oh, I totally agree. Now, you grew up in Waterbury?
Yes, I was born in 1978 in the city of Waterbury, Connecticut. I was born and raised in that city.
Now, compared to growing up in Waterbury then to what you see now, because obviously you're hitting the streets again because you're campaigning, what differences? Because look, I grew up in the suburbs. I grew up in South Windsor. What little I know of Waterbury is like seeing on the news, shooting here, shooting there. What has changed from when you were a kid to now? Is it better, worse, or about the same?
It's worse, a lot worse now than it was when I was growing up. It was bad when I was growing up, but now it's even worse. And the reason why I say it's worse is because my grandparents on my father's side, they immigrated to America from the Cape Verde Islands off the west coast of Africa, which is a Portuguese colony. They came here for factory work. My mother's family came from Jacksonville, North Carolina in 1946, and they came up here for the same reasons. There was a lot of factory work. Waterbury was booming.
Oh, yeah.
It was the brass capital of the world. They had so many different industries. From companies, Uniroyal, that was making like They would make work boots, like rubber rain jackets. There were so many different factories. Like my mother worked in Cadbury, Peter and Paul Almond Joy candy factory.
Yep.
Yeah, my mom worked there for like 40 years, and then they closed down. And she had a pension. That's back when they was giving out pensions.
That's right.
So people could actually work in a factory and make a good living, great benefits.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, a lot of these factories got closed down, and once they got closed down and outsourced, the drugs came in, and with the drugs, that's when the crime came. Because a lot of people don't realize this, but a lot of these urban communities that you hear about, these shootings and crimes and crack houses and prostitution, a lot of those were affluent neighborhoods. And some people who are not aware, they assume that when minorities moved into those neighborhoods, they're the ones that ruined the neighborhoods, when that wasn't the case. You had successful black families and two-parent households, Christian values, hardworking families, and they took pride in their homes. They made sure their neighborhoods were clean. But once the factories closed down and they lost work, a lot of depression came in, and that's when a lot of our parents, they either fell victim to needing government assistance programs, which part of the requirement was you couldn't have the father in the home.
That's right.
And that's, when you take the father out of the household, like Charlie Kirk said, Charlie Kirk, he was a firm advocate in promoting two-parent households.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the main reasons why he came up with the Black Leadership Summits, and he was going across college campuses, because he wanted to educate Black Americans about, when you bring Christian values into your life, and you focus on marriage, and instead of having children out of wedlock, you have a better chance of being successful in America. And these values, by the time I was born in 1978, growing up in the 80s and 90s in the city of Waterbury during the height of the crack cocaine epidemic, the families were destroyed.
Yeah, kind of like Detroit.
Yeah. So, that's the environment that I was raised in. My father, unfortunately, fell victim to drugs at one point in time. He was incarcerated when I was 8 years old. Actually 10 years old, 1988. I used to visit my dad in prison, and, it was just, you've seen so much of that. But the reason why I say it's worse now is because even during that time period, I still seen Black families who still had both parents in the household.
Right.
So I seen a remnant of the past still, because I had some friends where their parents were strict. They had to go in the house when the street lights came on. They went to church every Sunday. So I still had a level of respect for my elders. So, if they see me doing something wrong, they would call my parents, or they would tell me to knock that out, stop that, and I would listen.
Yeah.
Nowadays,
no respect.
There's no respect. These kids, because you got to remember, these kids, their grandparents are still in the nightclubs.
Yeah.
Their grandparents are on drugs. My grandparents are from the old generation that you knew better not to talk back to your grandmother, because you was gonna get it. You was gonna get it from your grandparents and your parents.
Exactly.
Nowadays, if you try to chastise a kid, he might try to harm you, or the parents might jump on you.
And how do you fix that? That's
that's the problem.
Exactly.
Yeah,
how do you fix that?
I mean, the main thing that I do is, and I'll get into what I've been through in my life.
Yeah,
we're
gonna get into that.
Yeah, but the main thing that I do now is I actually find a lot of young kids, who they want better, but if you got apples and oranges on the table, but you got bananas underneath the table, and you're telling people to pick what fruit they want, they're gonna pick the apples and oranges.
Yeah.
And never pick the bananas. So if you like, I got into the trades, I got electrical background. I got a Class A CDL with a hazmat tanker endorsement.
Electrical. You shock jockey.
Yes.
I'm just teasing you, man. I'm a tradesman too.
Yeah. So
I'm just teasing.
Yeah. So it's like, but when I was going through the trades, I didn't see a lot of people of color in those skill sets. And a lot of the guys that were there, their fathers were in the trades, their uncles were in the trades. So they were exposed. Their exposure was different.
Yeah.
But in the urban community, you're more exposed to how to sell heroin, how to sell drugs, how to cut corners. And I want to introduce these kids to other opportunities. And I think those opportunities will appear to be more superior than what they're getting. I'm not saying all of them is going to accept it, but I believe a large portion of them will.
Now, is that something you do with your
my nonprofit?
Your nonprofit?
Yes, the Phoenix Youth Foundation. I haven't actively been involved, right?
Because you're campaigning.
Because I'm campaigning.
You're busy.
Yeah, but and I would have to get into the story about what I've been through so you'll understand why I'm running as a Republican.
Okay.
Because after I went through what I went through and I started the nonprofit organization, I went to a lot of Democrat elected officials. And I had a strategy of curbing gang violence inside the city, I had a whole plan with a school, IMTI in Waterbury, Connecticut, the school that I graduated from electrical, and I wanted to actually bring vocational training opportunities to these inner city kids, and nobody wanted to help me. And when I realized that nobody wanted to help me, and I started to pay attention to the programs that were getting the help, and all they was doing was teaching kids how to dribble a basketball, and there's no outlet, there's nothing of substance for that. Like, how long can you dribble a basketball for?
Yeah.
So I wanted to give someone, these kids a skill set so that they could carry it on throughout their lives and actually produce generational wealth for them and their families. And once I realized that I was getting a lot of pushback and roadblocks, stonewalled. I realized that the Democrat establishment in the cities, they make more money. They get funding whenever there's more crime, impoverished communities, and this is what they want.
And that's what I've heard through the years, especially from not minorities that are on the conservative side, or even just that walked away from the Democrats. Are like, they don't want me to do better.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm not in office. There's nothing I can do better. Yeah. So what can you do better when elected to office? What can you do better for your district?
Well, the main thing that I want to do is I want to try to any type of programs that our citizens are on in our state, that are getting federal funding, any federal subsidized programs, Section 8 housing, food stamps. I want to make it a mandatory requirement for them to be enrolled into a weekly job training program. I know that some of them are supposed to be in a job training program, but we have to revamp that system, and we have to have more oversight to make sure that they're attending these weekly job training events. And we have to stop telling people, if you make $30 above the threshold, we're going to cut you off cold turkey.
Yeah, we're going to pull the rug out from under you.
Yeah, and then you're not giving them an incentive to want to do better.
Exactly.
What I want to do is I want to create a bridge to success so that we could gradually wean them off of the programs.
I've been saying that for years.
Yeah, so that's the goal. That's what I want to do when I'm in office on the federal level. I want to set up I want to pass a bill where is that we take away with the federal funding, we take away that if you make a certain amount, you just get cut off. Like this whole program of assistance, government assistance, is supposed to assist people to get back on their feet so that they could be productive members of society. And I think that that's gonna actually resonate well with people that are on government programs, because if you take a kid out of the housing project and you take them into even my neighborhood where I live at the end of a cul-de-sac in a beautiful home. You show them you show them what's out there outside of their range, and you could see that it's possible.
Yeah.
You know, especially after what I've been through in my life and what I was able to accomplish since that time. I'm showing people what you can do if you could take away the victimhood mentality. Because if you got this victimhood mentality that you can't accomplish anything, because just like what these liberals are doing with the voter ID,
Yeah.
they're telling them, oh, black people can't get ID. It's going to hurt minorities.
Jonathan, do you have an ID?
I got like 5 pictured IDs in my pocket
You
right now.
you know where the DMV is?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
It's an insult.
It is.
You know.
It is.
Yeah.
I agree. It's like, don't be racist, but that person can't. Wait, what?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That.
Yeah. Like the governor of New York said, kids in the Bronx don't know what a computer is.
Did you see the video? I don't know who put it up, but after she said that, there was a black gentleman who did a video with a laptop.
Yeah.
And he was running around acting like he was like, I laughed so hard. It's like, you're obviously insulting.
Yes.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
And speaking of the ID, I have a question. Maybe you can enlighten me. So some people, my friends, they come to me for politics. I'm like, I haven't talked about it in a minute, but okay, they pass the SAFE Act. Okay, great. You have to have your ID to vote. Places like Connecticut and around the country, they give IDs and licenses to those that are illegal.
Yeah.
So now they can vote legally.
Yeah.
How do we verify then? In states where people are given IDs and they're not here legally, how can we verify that they're not voting now? How do we do that?
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when the people who are supposed to be supervising, they're the ones they're the corrupt ones.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the lady in Torrington that got caught at the DMV. She worked for DMV. She was changing people's voter registration. You put down your Republican, she'll change it to Democrat.
If you, I don't care which party it is. If you have to cheat or do stuff like that, then you got no confidence in who you're running.
Exactly.
I mean, if it's like using steroids in baseball. If you got to cheat, you're not a winner.
Exactly.
All right. Speaking of your past, let's delve into that. You brought it up a couple of times. I want to get into that as well as your nonprofit. So, like, take the mic. Let's go back to your childhood and then where things took a very, very hard turn for you in your life.
Yeah. So, like I said, I was born and raised in the city of Waterbury, Connecticut, 1978, September 2nd, 1978. My parents, they got divorced when I was 4 years old. My father, unfortunately, he had a lot of children out of wedlock outside of my mother's marriage, his marriage with my mom. So he was preoccupied. He was real spread real thin. So I didn't have like that father structure in the home.
Okay.
And that's why it resonated well with me with what Charlie Kirk was saying. It's about the greatest threat to the black community is not a police officer, a white police officer with a gun and a badge, but it's the absentee father. You take the father out of the household, the child has a 93% more likelihood to commit crimes or to go astray.
I'm sorry. The heat just came on. I'm sorry. I forgot to shut that off.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
Yeah, no problem. So that right there, I grew up, in a rough environment at a bad time. Like I said, crack cocaine epidemic, a lot of gang violence in the urban community. I got robbed. I actually got robbed by some older guys in my neighborhood. I had a little summer job at like a youth camp, not mentoring, but supervising younger kids. I was 14 years old, so we had probably like kids that were like 8.
Nice.
So I had a little summer job and came home from work, walking home, and I got robbed. And I felt so powerless at that time. Well, I got to get into prior to that. I was 12 years old. I was trick-or-treating with my cousin and a couple of friends. And we had this area in the city of Waterbury. Right now it's predominantly Jewish. It was back then. It's called Columbia Boulevard. Affluent area, and we went there trick-or-treating because they used to give out the big candy bars.
Oh, big bars.
Yeah, the big bars. So we would go there and get the candy. But while we were trick-or-treating, there was a group of kids that was going around with a BB gun that looked real, and they would rob kids for their candy.
Oh, my God.
So they was pulling their gun, their BB gun out, taking people's candy bags, running away. And I guess someone called the cops and said there was a group of kids in the neighborhood waving a gun. Quite naturally, right?
Yeah.
But
That's what you do on Halloween.
Yeah, but, yeah. I mean, quite naturally, you would call the cops.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. I'm sorry.
But unfortunately, the kids, I saw the kids. They were white kids. But if you're a white person and you call the cops on white kids you're gonna say there's a group of kids waving a gun.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you would normally say, right?
Yeah, just a group of kids with a gun.
Group of kids with a gun. But if it's a group of black kids with a gun, you're gonna say there's a group of black kids in the neighborhood with a gun, right? I mean, let's be real. If naturally, right?
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
But this person called the cops and said there's a group of kids in the neighborhood waving a gun. So when the cops came, they saw a group of black kids walking, which was me, myself, and the cop jumped out, said, "Freeze! I'll blow your effing head off." And like he was panicking. He had this gun, and we're like, "What's going on?" Like, had no clue.
I'm just trick or treat, bro.
Just trick or treating. Threw us on the ground. Put the gun to my head. Put his foot on my back. And I'm 12 years old, and I remember. I heard a woman's voice, and she came out, and she said, "Oh my God, what are you doing? These are just kids."
Yeah.
And then he got the call that they got the perpetrators down the street. They caught the real kids that had the gun. And he still arrested us for breach of peace.
Just to save face.
Just to save face.
Bro.
Brought us to the police station, and I remember seeing the kids that had the gun. They were in the bullpen, and they were laughing at us, and they were calling us nigger, and
dude.
all this. It was just it was crazy. And
unbelievable.
My parents got us out, and instead of my parents like pursuing the issue, legally,
yeah,
they just chose to let it go. And
it happens all the time, right?
yeah, it happens all the time. And and this is in the early 90s. This is when NWA, Public Enemy, F the Police. And
yes.
So me experiencing police brutality at that young age, at 12, I had a natural distrust for law enforcement.
Fair enough.
So because that was my first encounter with law enforcement. It was a negative experience. And then when I got robbed, the reason why I'm telling you this is because when I got robbed, coming home from my summer job at 14 years old, who do I call?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to call the cops and then
yeah,
I don't know. Like I don't trust. At that time, I didn't. I've grown past that sense.
Yeah, but at the time, I mean, I get it.
Yeah,
I understand.
Yeah, so that was the culture. That was the atmosphere that I grew up in. I mean, you didn't trust law enforcement. You had a distrust for law enforcement, and unfortunately, the few bad apples, and not even to say that officer was racist or that officer abuses authority. And I believe he was just trying to save face. But when you're working by yourself at night, patrolling, and someone says someone has a gun, and then you see these kids with, walking with Halloween masks on, you just assume that is them. Like, I mean, it was just a natural.
Yeah.
It was a misjudge. He should have never arrested. He should have let us go once he got that he knew that he arrested the wrong people, but he didn't.
He didn't.
And that's what happened. But when I got robbed, I didn't report it to law enforcement. I had to eat it. I took the loss. But from that point on, I just knew that I wasn't safe in the environment that I lived in. And I had to find a way to protect myself. And as I got older, I made sure that I had a firearm to protect my home, because it was just, people do home invasions. Like, I lived in, a lot of people don't realize, they don't think that far ahead. They just think like, okay, what about, because you hear about the shootings in these cities.
Yes.
You hear about the violence, but you don't think about the people who live there.
Correct.
Every day.
Correct.
What do they do? I mean, how do they protect themselves? especially when you feel as though the police. You call the police, they come like a half hour later or hour later, because there's so many calls coming in.
Exactly. And even I've said for years, because I'm a staunch 2A guy, even if you're living in the suburbs and the police are literally next door, somebody kicks in your back door, you call them, they're still, 15 seconds run away.
Yeah, exactly.
At least you can reach over and get something and do something to help yourself in the meantime.
Exactly.
So, sorry, continue.
Yeah, so, it just got to the point where, I just felt powerless. And in a hostile environment, and I just decided that I wasn't going to live in that environment without being able to defend myself if needed.
Yeah, don't want to be a victim again.
Yeah, and at the situation that transpired in 1996, I was attacked by several gang members on a basketball court. And one of them had a loaded firearm, and I was forced to defend myself using deadly force. Damn. And we, me and my uncle, we reported it to law enforcement. But the thing is, I got arrested. They was investigating what happened, and they found a loaded firearm connected to the deceased perpetrator. But the district attorney that worked on the case at the time, he was the chief district attorney. His name was John Conley. He was known to be extremely corrupt, and he was a very connected and powerful man. And he had two African American detectives that worked for him, and an Italian detective, Michael Ritchie. That actually, they used to plant cases, fix cases, do whatever they wanted to do. And, my family, been in that city for a long time. And my uncle was a Black Panther. My dad was in a gang that came out of the Bronx that came to Connecticut, was called the Black Spades. And unfortunately, they had little squabbles with law enforcement, fights and stuff, especially during the 60s when Martin Luther King was assassinated. They had riots in Connecticut.
You can just pull the mic up.
Yeah, they had riots.
Sorry.
They had riots in Connecticut. So like my dad was like known, respected, but still in all, my name, I had a lot, my name is very known in the city of Waterbury. My last name, not because of me, but just because my family, like I had a first cousin that fought Sugar Ray Leonard.
Wow.
Yeah, so he was ranked number 7 in the country. Like
that's cool.
Yeah, came out of Waterbury, Connecticut. So
that's cool.
De Barros, my name is was known, and unfortunately, this district attorney, when this case happened, even though it was a self-defense case, they wanted to secure a murder conviction, so they hid the loaded firearm from the jury in my first trial to get a conviction. I was sentenced to life in prison. And then later on, my family, they collected $60,000 to help fight the case on the appeal. And we got a 3-judge panel. 3 judges unanimously overturned my conviction and ruled that the evidence that they withheld was needed in my self-defense case. It was exculpatory evidence. So they overturned my conviction, but ordered a new trial under the pretext that evidence should be admitted.
Exactly.
But it took them 3 years to bring me back to trial again. And in between that time, the district attorney that I'm talking about, he had this Judge Damiani, sign an order to have the gun destroyed.
Oh my God.
So, it was that's what took me so long to get out of prison. And I finally got out. And
how many years were you in?
I was in for 19 years.
19 years.
Yes, 19 years in prison. And then I finally,
bro.
Yeah. And then, and while I was in prison, I was fighting the charges, going over case law, and I found all the Brady violations in the case. But in the meantime, I actually, and I tell people, I don't tell everybody this, but I have said this before in the past, that, I said a prayer to God. I actually prayed I didn't want to be released till I was ready. I don't know ready for what, but I wanted to be ready. Like I was just tired of this everything.
Tired of being tired.
Yeah, tired of being tired. So I always knew that I would get out regardless of what they told me. Um, but I would study. I was an avid reader. Like I studied, Plato's Republic, Marcus Aurelius. Um,
Mm.
I've studied so much. Even Thomas Sowell, um, the history of Ulysses Grant hunting down the Ku Klux Klan, and he was a badass.
Yeah, he was.
John Brown, and I've studied a lot of American history and world history. Even Machiavelli, The Art of War. I've studied so much over the course of the 19 years I was in prison. I took college classes. I took public speaking through a Nunstuck University in Enfield, Connecticut.
Nice.
I did everything that I could to prepare myself for whatever God wanted me to do. I never thought I'd be a politician. I just wanted to be an advocate for at-risk youth, for them to be, so they wouldn't have to go through what I went through.
Sorry, not to cut you off. How are you not super bitter about being in jail for 19 years not saying for nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, self-defense. Okay, maybe
Yeah.
if somebody wanted to hit you with manslaughter or something.
Yeah.
But 19 years,
Yeah.
and then with all of those things that happened, literally scheming behind your back against you, how are you not bitter and just angry at the world?
Because I understand what the plan was now,
Okay.
right? I mean, Joseph in the Bible, anybody that's familiar with biblical text, Joseph was in prison for 17 years. When God finally released him, he basically saved his whole nation, his family, from famine. He became an advisor to Pharaoh. So I realized that God had a plan, and He needed me to go through what I went through to prepare me for that, and that's exactly what keeps me going.
It's a beautiful outlook, man.
Yeah, I didn't know what the plan was until I put it like this: when I was 14 years old, prior to me going to prison, I was 14 years old. There's this elderly, older woman. She wasn't too old back then, but she was much older than me. We called her Miss Greta. She was my good friend, childhood friends of mine's mother, and she was a Christian woman. And every time you see her, she wants to preach to you about the Bible. So it was like I would try to avoid her, and then but she had saw me walking, and she called my name. She said, "Jonathan." She said, "Come here." And being a respectful young man, even though I made mistakes in my life, I was always respectful to my elders. I went over to talk to her, and she asked me how I was doing. I told her, and she says that God was going to use me one day to help the kids, to save the kids. And when she said that, I felt it was kind of odd, because she was telling me about her kids, because they were going through trouble, difficulties. And I felt it was kind of odd that she said that to me, being that I was only 14 years old.
Yeah.
And I was going through my own issues, and I felt like I needed someone to save me. But when I was incarcerated, as I got older, because
Continue.
yeah,
Sorry.
as I got older, because I went in 30 days after my 18th birthday. I spent 19 years, so I became an adult in prison, and younger prisoners would come in, and they were lost. They didn't know what to do, and
You've seen this before.
Yeah, because I've been through it myself. So I will always do my best to educate them on how to survive in there. Because I took vocational training program. Any opportunity you could think of, I stayed busy in there. That's why my mind is sharp and intact. Because I wasn't on no mental health medications. A lot of people, they get caught out.
Yeah.
Either psych meds or actual drugs, street drugs. That's in prison.
Mm-hmm.
But through the grace of God, I was able to keep my mind strong and solid, and preserved it. but I would mentor these kids, and I thought that this was what God wanted me to do, to try to help these kids. And that's why I wanted to start the Phoenix Youth Foundation once I was released, because I wanted to be a mentor and an advocate for these young kids that didn't have the guidance that, like I said, Charlie Kirk was talking about, 2-parent households.
Yeah.
So that was my goal. That was my mission when I started the nonprofit in 2018. But then I received so much pushback and stonewalling from the city of Waterbury. I felt as though like it was intentional. It felt intentional. Like they didn't want me to. They didn't want me to help these kids. So I reached out to me knowing history and learning about the Republican Party. And to be honest with you, the person that really made me gravitate, because I had an aunt that was always a Republican. Like she never switched parties.
Okay.
And she was a Catholic. She was a Republican. So I knew that there was, black Republicans, and so I knew that part. But I actually reached out to the GOP of Connecticut, and I got no response. And they had someone that was in charge of urban outreach, that was supposed to be in charge of urban outreach. No response for several months, and then I actually ran into the person. And when I ran into the person actually went to school with my wife, and he's African American. My wife is Puerto Rican American, from Waterbury as well.
Nice.
And she knew him, and I reached out to him, and he never responded. But then I ran into him. And I happened to be with my wife, so she introduced me to him. And he knew who I was because we became friends on Facebook, but we never met personally.
Gotcha.
Or corresponded with each other. And he was listed as being in charge of urban outreach for the GOP. So when I started telling him about what I wanted to do, I wanted to bring the values of the conservative values back to the Black and Hispanic community, and I wanted to teach these young kids the rich history of the Republican Party being an abolitionist party. Teach them about Madam C.J. Walker, who was the first self-made female millionaire in America. She was the first self-made female millionaire.
Wow.
Because you had female millionaires, but they either was born into it or married into it.
Yeah.
She was self-made.
Self-made.
And she was a Republican. Ida B. Wells, another black woman, she was a Republican as well. And I wanted to teach these young kids this so that they could start thinking outside of the box and get this victim mentality out. Because Frederick Douglass, he passed away in 1895. He was worth over $300,000, which is the equivalent of $10 million today. Wow. He wrote 3 autobiographies of his own life, and he taught himself how to read and write. And he traveled around the world. He went to England when black people were still in slavery.
That's right.
So these are the things that I want, these young kids to know, because it's inspiring.
It is.
So once you inspire these kids, and you're inspiring them to love their country and to be proud of their country, and to be proud to be who they are, to be an American. And I believe if we taught this correctly, you wouldn't need Black History Month. You just need American history. So, but once I met this gentleman, he was like, man, don't believe that BS. He was like, Democrats, Republicans, we're all down together. We work together. He was like, that's bullshit. He was like, we're in this together, bro. We don't believe. And I was like, what do you mean? And then he started giving me examples of the corruption in both parties.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a uniparty.
Oh, you bet.
Yeah. So once he told me that, I was like, wow. And then President Trump, everything President Trump was doing, exposing the uniparty, that's what made me like President Trump. It was that, and also he was one of the first politicians that I knew, that I felt as though, that actually talked to black men. That came to black, because the Democrats, they cater to black women or gay black men. They don't want masculine, because they don't want fathers. They don't want black men to take their role in the family.
Gotcha.
Because then the government has to go. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
President Trump, you study his history. Jesse Jackson, when he was running for presidency, who did he go to? He went to President Trump when Trump was just Trump. And
That's right.
Trump gave him over $1 million to start Rainbow Push Coalition, and also he endorsed him for presidency in the 80s. Gave him funding. Gave the NAACP fund. He received awards from the NAACP for giving so much
No,
funding.
they loved him until he wanted to rock the boat.
Exactly. And that's why I'm a firm supporter of President Trump, because I see through the BS, the smoke and mirrors with the media. I was victimized by the media when I caught my case. They made me look like I was some gangbanger that killed somebody on a basketball court when the facts were totally different.
And that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about today, because like
Mm-hmm.
I've seen your videos over the last few months, and that's why I reached out. And then that came out, and you're like, I'm gonna hit it head on.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's the way to do it, because you're gonna talk about it anyway.
Yeah. So that never happened. I got my conviction overturned. They knew it was self-defense. I was fully exonerated by the state of Connecticut, received a full and absolute pardon of all my charges.
That is awesome.
My rights were restored to me. I have my pistol permit.
That's
I'm
awesome.
a member of the NRA. This happened over 30 years ago. I'm very transparent. I don't hide it. Actually, the deceased perpetrator in my case, his brother reached out to me last year and told me how proud he is of everything that I'm accomplishing, and he's a firm supporter of me and my campaign.
That's beautiful too.
And he has a nonprofit organization helping at-risk youth, and we're supposed to collaborate soon to try to do what we can to share our stories of his brother being, because his brother was young too.
Yeah.
He made mistakes, and I had to do what I had to do, and he forgives me, even though I was in the right. It's still a tough pill to swallow.
Exactly.
For the family.
It's his brother.
It's his brother.
I get it.
Yeah, and even his mother to this day, she doesn't want to hear it, because she's gonna believe what she wants to believe,
And that's fair enough.
and that's fair.
Fair.
So, and the only reason why I haven't come out publicly, shouting the brother supporting me, because I don't want to put a wedge between the mother. I want him to do it at his time.
Exactly. And if you're in the picture, at least he can say, Mom, we're collaborating for the kids.
Exactly.
It's for the kids.
Exactly.
Oh, man. So one thing I've always thought about through the years, like, in the inner cities, kids see, why do I want to become a carpenter? Why am I going to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning every day, getting splinters or shocking myself or whatever, when I can just sit on the corner and I can make 10 G's this week?
Yeah.
How do you break that mentality? How do you get through to somebody outside of, well, you don't want to wind up like your friend, but how do you break that?
You break it by showing them how you could actually live better
than
the people that are out there selling drugs. Because the people that's selling drugs, they don't got nothing in their name. You can't buy a house. You can't buy, because you don't got no credit. You can't show where your income's coming.
I'm just gonna pay cash, bro.
Yeah. And then you gotta look over your shoulder constantly. You gotta worry about somebody kicking in your door to rob you and to kill you, to take what you have, or the police kicking down your door
and taking your freedom,
and
taking everything.
And taking everything. So it's just the stress, the level of stress. And then not only that, we have so many confidential informants who have been allowed to sell drugs in our communities for far too long, who we know. I know people personally.
And then not just the CIA.
Nah, it's not the CIA. I know people personally that are out there selling drugs. That's why, like Johanna Hayes, the person I'm running against, we know who she really is in our community. Like, it'll come out when it's time, who she really is. But she's not who you think she is. And she knows that. And that's why she's where she's at right now, because every candidate that they ran was controlled opposition. And they never really gave her no fight.
Gotcha.
George Logan, he was a nice guy, but he wasn't from our district. He was from Ansonia, which is Congressional District number 3. They got him an apartment in Meriden, which is part of the 5th, so that he could say he was from the 5th district, but nobody knew who he was. And that's identity politics.
Yeah.
See,
I hate identity politics.
Republicans want to want to criticize Democrats for identity politics.
They play the game.
But they play the game too. But the thing is, with me, it's not identity politics. I'm from the community. I'm the best candidate. I'm the person that knows her and knows how to rattle her cage, and I could actually take votes away from her because we're from the same city and we know the same people.
So on your platform, what is it, if you're elected, what do you want to do not only for your district, but what do you want to be able to do? What are you going to try to do for the state of Connecticut? Within your power, of course.
Within my power, I mean, I want to organize, first and foremost. I believe we need to organize our citizens to create ICE patrols.
Okay.
And we got to cooperate with our federal law enforcement officers because we have over 200,000 illegals currently residing in our state, and we spent $1.8 billion
Yeah.
in Connecticut alone.
Just Connecticut.
So if we don't get those 200,000 people out of our pockets, anything you're doing, you're freaking on the hamster wheel. You got to get them out first.
No, not to interrupt you, but I have to interrupt you. With all of the stuff that's obviously, we are all aware of what's going on in Minnesota and the two people that died and all of that, the poor optics. When somebody hears you say that, okay, you're MAGA, that's great, you're for that, but I don't want that coming here to my streets. I don't want to see that on Waterbury. So, okay, well, what do you say to that?
See, when I go into the heart of the hood, as you say, the community, right? I talk to like the bodega owners,
Okay.
the Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, Jamaicans, people that were born in America or came here legally, correctly.
Like my family.
Yeah, people work their asses off to open up the businesses that they have, and now you got illegals coming in getting grants, and they're freaking competing with them.
That's ridiculous.
Using their tax dollars to compete with them. They get pissed.
Yeah.
And they don't care that they're from a Latin country. And that's the problem. A lot of people lump all people that speak Spanish together.
Yeah.
I'll give an example. I went to Newtown. I had an event out there, and these two women from Danbury came to meet me, and they were from Peru.
Okay.
They came to America correctly, the right way, did everything, did all their paperwork, spent thousands of dollars, waited their time,
Yep.
became American citizens, and they said they're pissed off. They like, we support Trump, and we came here the right way, and we don't care if they came from the same country we came from. They're not doing it the right way, and we got to pay for them, and it's not fair. And I believe a lot of politicians are afraid to talk about this head on because they think that they're going to alienate themselves from, because of, like you said, the optics.
Yes.
But the optics is designed to appear that way.
Exactly.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that the majority of the people go along with that. They might make you feel like the majority is because not enough people's coming out saying what I'm saying. But I'm telling you, that's what people voted for. And you look at what President Trump ran on in the 2024 election. What did he run on? He ran on border security.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
He got the popular vote and the electoral college.
Yes, he did.
And he went into the Bronx, and he went into Detroit, and he went into Chicago.
And not every encounter is what everybody sees on X.
Exactly. So I believe we got a good game plan here.
Okay.
I don't listen to the state GOP because I know I'm on the ground. I'm a grassroots candidate. You see me with a red Charlie Kirk hat on.
Yes, I do.
I go into the urban communities just like this, and I talk to the people, and they look at my hat, but they don't, they're like, yo, why you got that hat? And then I explain it to them, and I try to, even if they don't agree with me, because they know me and they know my family and they know my history and they know that I'm a stand-up, I'm a solid person. Like I'm comfortable and I could do what I do what I gotta do. And like I tell people, in order to flip the 5th district, you need 60% of the urban vote in order to actually get the job done. But I got 41 cities and towns. I got 4 cities. So I need 60% split between 4 cities. I don't need 60% in each city. I need 15% in Waterbury, 15% of the vote in Danbury, and 15% in Meriden. Or I can mix match Waterbury. I'll probably get 30% in Waterbury alone.
Okay.
Then I'll split the other rest by the Meriden, New Britain, and Danbury. I'll split that vote. As long as the rural and the suburban communities give me the same support they gave George Logan in 2022 and 2024, I'm gonna win. Actually, 2024, I believe a lot of people, they skipped his name because he didn't want to publicly endorse Trump on a presidential ticket, which was crazy.
Optics.
Yeah.
So besides immigration, what else? What else do you want to ridiculous.
I already talked about the economy as far as getting people back to work.
Yep.
We got to give them an incentive to get off government assistance.
Absolutely.
Because if we don't, they're going to stay on that program. And
taxes just going to go up.
Exactly.
Defeat it.
Exactly. Energy. I'm all for nuclear.
I agree.
Natural gas, fracking, whatever we got to do.
No more wind turbines?
No wind turbines. And Eversource, the monopoly of Eversource is killing us, because you're not gonna get a factory here when they gotta pay for the utilities from Eversource. It's just ridiculous. You gotta have some type of competition.
And don't even get me started with the whole Eversource and the $200 from Ned. Just every month you open up the bill and I'm like, I'm paying how much for somebody else?
Yeah, public benefits charges.
It's ridiculous.
And that's my problem with our GOP, our state GOP elected officials.
They got no spine.
No spine, and the ones that do have a spine, they're only on television complaining.
Yes.
I'm like,
it's easier to complain.
I'm like, bro, come with me. This is what I tell them. Like, I literally go to them and ask them, listen, come with me into the urban communities and let's talk to these people and explain to them why their Eversource bill is so high. You know what some people say? I'm not gonna say all of them, but I have heard this and it blows my mind. Oh, they don't vote. They get their little freebies. They get the goodies. I'm like, hold up. So you're insinuating that everybody in the city's on Section 8 housing and so nobody goes to work.
Nobody works.
Nobody works. When the facts are only 30% of people in the urban communities are on government subsidized programs. So you got 70% of the people that go to work every day. Hardworking people.
And of that 30%, even if you could cut that in half, because there's always going to be somebody that needs something, and fair enough.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, fair enough.
Exactly.
I mean, I got no problem helping out my fellow neighbor.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can't tell me that of the 30% that are, there's 0% that can't get a job. I mean, come on.
Exactly.
Do something. Even part-time, come on.
Exactly. But when you go to the 70% that's going to work every day, and they don't like the 30% that's freeloading.
No.
Don't mind you. I'm not saying everybody's a freeloader.
Exactly.
But the ones that are
correct,
the ones that go to work every day, they don't like that.
Yeah.
But what other options do they have? Because I'm gonna tell you, the Black and Hispanic community, they're programmed to vote every election cycle, not for policies, but against racism.
Yes.
Because it's fear mongering.
Mm-hmm.
So they use fear tactics. You heard Joe Biden, they're going to put you back in chains.
If you don't vote for me, you ain't black.
You ain't black.
What?
I'm like, what?
What? And people still voted for you?
Yeah,
that is crazy.
Because they're brainwashed. But that's why I'm so important, because I could articulate the facts. I could talk about the 1994 crime bill and Senator Strom Thurmond and freaking Joe Biden, who proudly says he wrote that bill with Strom Thurmond, the crack cocaine laws. Now, if you know who Senator Strom Thurmond is, Senator Strom Thurmond led the longest filibuster in United States history, 73 days. He filibustered the Civil Rights Bill.
Yeah.
To block it. He was a Democrat at that time. He voted, he filibustered the Civil Rights Bill to try to block the Civil Rights Bill. A lot of people don't realize that the Civil Rights Bill was passed with overwhelming Republican support. Mm-hmm. Martin Luther King was a Republican. The politicians during Martin Luther King's time that was marching with him were Republicans. Lyndon B. Johnson was a Democrat, a racist Democrat from Texas. But when he was the president, he knew that Black Americans were going to get their right to vote regardless. Mm-hmm. It was either going to be underneath his presidency or the next administration. And he said, I'll have these niggas voting Democrat for the next 200 years. Mm-hmm. So when it got to his desk, even though the Democrats tried to block it, because of overwhelming Republican support in the House and the Senate, it got to the president's desk. And instead of him just saying, I'm going to veto this shit, like these niggas ain't going to vote, he said, I'm going to have these niggas voting for us. Because a lot of Black people didn't understand the branches of government or the process of how legislation is signed into law. They just think the president could do it.
Yeah.
So when he took the credit And then they had Martin Luther King killed, and people that knew the truth that it wasn't the Democrats, it was the Republicans. A lot of black people switched parties.
Yeah.
And they became Democrats. And that's where the party switched. The party didn't switch. The racists didn't switch. Like it was the black people.
The
that
messaging switched.
The messaging switched.
It's so gross. It's so gross. Like even here in Connecticut, no, I forgot which election it was. Because again, I'm a pro-gun guy, and the person that's the incumbent who's still there, and Mr. Anti-Gun, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to look at the Republican. And I wasn't just going to go, I'm going to go in there and just vote for the R. I looked at what's this guy's stance, and he was even more anti-gun than the Democrat that's in office. I'm like, well, then I can't vote for you.
Yeah.
Because that's why the whole party thing to me, okay, yes, usually there's a vision from one side or the other, but you got to be open to everything.
Yeah. It's a scam. Like even I went to Hartford, when they were protesting diquat, the chemical diquat going into the water.
Yeah, I remember talking about that.
Because they had it's an invasive species of plant called
hydrilla.
And it gets caught on the bottom of the ships and
gets in the props and clogs drainage. Yeah, it's nasty, but it's all up and down the East Seaboard. It's in Texas. It's everywhere.
Yeah, so they wanted to use this chemical called diquat to kill it off. Unfortunately, it does more damage than good.
Yeah.
And it was banned in the UK.
Yep.
And then the company that was manufacturing this chemical in the UK started to sell it in Brazil. And the people in Brazil started getting cancer. It started killing all their aquatic life.
Yep.
And once we found out that the Army Corps of Engineers was going to use this chemical in our waterways here in Connecticut, I went to the Capitol with the environmentalist groups, and we started to protest. So we were protesting. I think I had my campaign shirt on. I had my MAGA hat on, and I'm protesting. I get interviewed by NBC News.
Nice.
But they won't air it.
Oh,
because I didn't fit the narrative.
Oh.
I'm a black guy with a MAGA hat running for Congress as a Republican, standing with the environmentalists. They don't want that.
No.
So they interviewed my friend, Selena, who, she's like she looks like a naturalist, like she looks like an environmentalist.
She looks crunchy. You say she looks crunchy? Okay.
Yeah. So she's
just teasing.
Yeah. So no, she's a white woman that looks like free.
Free spirit.
Nice. Even though she's a conservative and she's very intelligent and she knows her stuff.
But they went by the look.
They went by the look instead of putting me up there. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy.
That's so gross.
Manipulation.
It's so gross.
Yeah, they don't want. I'm telling you, they don't want. And that's why the state GOP, they don't like me, because I don't fit their box. But the thing is, that's how I'm going to win. You know how many independents I got backing me and Democrats, including Republicans? I'm all over the country. I just came back from AmFest, Turning Point USA, America Fest. I met so many people out there. It was over 33,000 people. Wow. There were so many Black Americans and Hispanic Americans there in support of Charlie Kirk and what was going on down there. It was awesome. I had a great experience. Made a lot of great contacts.
That's awesome.
I actually spoke. I got interviewed by a Real American Voice, Rav. Trust me, man. It's a lot of good things coming my way. Through the grace of God.
That's awesome, man.
A lot of opportunities and a lot of people supporting my campaign. They love the story, my backstory. But the state GOP, they run away from it like the plague. I'm like, you should be using
Embrace
me.
it.
Embrace it.
You're a success story, bro.
Yeah, like I'm the person that could get the people that you can't get to vote for you to vote. We lost over 29 local municipals last election cycle. 29 towns, including my town of Plymouth. It's a Democrat now, flip blue. Traditional Republican towns are gone. They lost them. And then the new zoning bill that they passed in Connecticut, where you took the rights of zoning away from the towns, and now it's going to be controlled by people in Hartford that don't even live in your town, and they're going to dictate what's going to be built in your town, and what can't be
Oh,
built.
they will have our best interests in heart.
Communism at its finest.
Yes, sir.
You know?
Communism isn't for the communists; it's for the people.
Exactly.
In your spare time, man, what do you like to do? How do you unwind? How do you, when you're not on the campaign and running around, and what makes you tick? How do you let off steam? How do you relax?
I like to read. I like to read books, and I like to listen to music. I love to play chess, but it's kind of hard to find people who play chess.
I play it, but I suck.
Yeah.
I know how the pieces move. I'm terrible at it,
Yeah.
but it's fun.
Yeah.
What kind of music you like?
Everything.
Everything.
Everything. I listen to rock and roll.
Oh, yeah.
I listen to jazz. I listen to classical music.
Nice.
I like listening to Mozart, like Beethoven. Like I listen to that. It relaxes me.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, what's one of your favorite bands? I mean, no, it doesn't have to be your favorite. A couple, route off a couple. Like what's in your playlist right now? If you get in your truck and you hit play, what's coming on?
Well, I like Shabusi.
Okay.
Is good. Yeah, I like
Okay.
Shabusi. You know, I like Leonard Skinner.
Oh, yeah.
Simple Man. That's my song.
Great
I
song.
love that song.
Love that song. The vocals,
Yeah,
so good.
yeah.
Yeah, you're now you're talking my language.
Yeah.
You know,
and Phil Collins
Air Tonight.
Yeah, Tonight.
Oh, such a good
awesome.
song.
Yeah.
Such a good song.
Yeah.
All right, before we get up out of here, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you? Where do your your socials? If you got an internet, and do you have any upcoming events where you can people can come out and meet you? And of course, I'll put the links up in the description and all that too. But go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you and all that good stuff.
Well, you can find me at my website. It's debarrosforcongress.org, and my last name is spelled D as in David, E as in Edward, B as in boy, ARROS 4FOR Congress.org. And you go on my website. All my social media contacts are at the bottom of the link. All the links. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. Reach out to me. If you guys, I got campaign hoodies, campaign shirts. My shirts are the best. They're awesome. If you're in my district, I got a lot. My district map is actually on my website. So because a lot of people don't know what congressional district they live in. So if you go on my website, you'll see my congressional district. You'll see all of my policies and what I represent. And I got a bunch of exciting videos on my podcast. I was interviewed by John Bachman on Newsmax.
I saw you on Locked and Loaded.
Yeah, Locked and Loaded. Yeah, so I got a lot of podcast interviews.
Shout out to them.
Once this one comes out, I'll put this interview on my website as well. So the events that will be coming up, they will be on my social media. I'll list those events. And I'm also on Anadot and Win Red. If you guys would like to contribute to my campaign, I'm looking for volunteers. I'm getting primaried by. I know I get in trouble for calling them rhinos, but I'm getting primaried by some people that probably mean well. But unfortunately, I don't think that this fight is their fight. I think they should be fighting somebody else because I know Johanna Hayes and I know how to beat her. So you got to be a very assertive person, and you got to go places that Republicans traditionally don't go in order to chip away at her voting block. So
awesome.
All right.
Jonathan, thank you so much for joining me today, man. I greatly appreciate this.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Awesome, man. All right. Thank you all for tuning in, and hey, until next time, keep being you.